The best of money matters. Wealth Tracker.
Welcome to the Wealth Tracker, where we dive into the uncharted territories of niche investment strategies that promise to redefine wealth. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. Singapore had recently taken a bold step toward integrating crypto into the mainstream wealth ecosystem. In a landmark move, the Monetary Authority of Singapore issued new guidance allowing wealth managers to formally verify digital asset holdings as part of a client's net worth. Now, it's a decision that could reshape how high net worth individuals and family offices invest, manage, and report on their crypto assets, bringing digital wealth out of the shadows and into the regulated financial fold. So what does this mean in practical terms for investors? Will family offices rethink their exposure to digital assets? And will crypto finally be treated like a serious asset class by traditional finance? Well, to find out more, joining me now is Steve Alain Lawrence, who is the CIO of Balfour Capital Group. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here for the listeners and your staff, and shoot away.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Steve, the Monetary Authority of Singapore has released comprehensive best practices for source of wealth due diligence, with specific emphasis on cryptocurrency holdings among high net worth individuals. What does this mean in practice, though, Steve? Will this make it easier for high net worth individuals to include digital assets in their formal portfolios?
You really hit it on the head. It's going to be how they verify the AML, the KY, meaning the anti-money laundering, the actual procurement of the client. And Singapore is ready to do that in a way that'll make it transparent to the world. Okay, Singapore wants to do something that the rest of the world isn't ready to do yet, which is trust and verify. And you're seeing that with the major 90% of the family offices in Singapore are already showing interest through the KPMG studies. And more importantly, you're going to look at DSB, the Lee family. You can go on and on with all the Hutchinson Whampoa. You can just see the pattern. So they want to be at the mountain first. And Singapore is known for that. Okay, they want to become the new Wall Street of the crypto industry.
Right. So how do you see this impacting the way family offices in Singapore manage and structure their crypto holdings? Will this also influence the types of crypto investments high net worth individuals and family offices pursue?
Well, let me say this too. There's going to be third-party insured custodians. Okay. So industry, there's always of insurance that's involved. Okay, so when you have a homeowner insurance policy, they lay off that paper, okay, that risk and liability to someone else. Okay. And I think that is not only, you're going to see that happen, but it comes back to the basics of when you look at the different strategies of what they have and you're dealing with right now, you're dealing with literally some of the best institutions in the world, whether it's DBS, whether it's Julius Baer, okay? You can go on, okay, with all the type of guidance that they have, all right, to really make it happen.
Well, do you think this move increases trust and legitimacy for crypto among traditional wealth managers and private banks?
Well, I think in Singapore, and I'm talking specifically about Singapore, when you have the Bank of Singapore exploring tokenization products, it tells you something, how driven the crypto interest is. But on the flip side, what you're also seeing is you're seeing the parallel universe, okay, between the United States of America and Singapore. I think that's what the public doesn't really realize right now, is that they're actually working in parallel in different ways to acquire the audit process to make it a clean and transparent transaction 24/7. And you've already seen that with JP Morgan. I mean, you've seen it with all the bigger players in the world. They're ready to step in, but before they jump into the pool, they just need to make sure that it's a little cold in the beginning, but they need to make sure that they can ensure the public that their assets are secure and, more importantly, that there's upside, if there is upside.
Right. Well, prior to this, Singapore's wealthy elite had already appeared to be looking at digital assets with fervor. And I mean, previous reports have suggested over 90% of family offices and high net worth individuals were interested in investing in digital assets space or have already done so. So, Steve, does this landmark move by the MAS now encourage more high net worth individuals and family offices to invest in crypto?
That's a really difficult question to answer, and I'm going to tell you why. In the beginning, when anything is new, there's always risk involved.
Right.
Okay, so Any investor or any family office that's investing right now understands what the risk parameter could be. Okay, because markets tend to repeat themselves historically when it comes to risk. Is this the new normal? As AI comes on and all the different manifestations of different businesses, what Singapore is trying to demonstrate is that they want to be first, okay, and that they have a compliance mechanism to allow all of Asia, okay. Singapore is the Asia of Wall Street. Whether you want to accept it or not, it is. It's the Asia of Wall Street, okay? And the brightest intellectual minds work in Singapore. And they have the conduits and understand the various cultures through Asia and the globe. Remember, I mean, Singapore was one of the first countries in the world to have a definitive relationship with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And that's historic. People don't even realize the relationship that Singapore has with the US when it comes to clearing transactions. So it's a lot more than DBS, Julius Baer, the Bank of Singapore, and the Whampoa Group. I can go on and on. Okay.
Yeah.
So much more than that. Okay. They understand each other. And I think that's what the public needs to see. All right. From an institutional basis, that's another conversation. But the listeners need to understand that new is good. New has risk. Okay. And it depends on the risk appetite you need to have when you want to get there first.
Right.
So the moral story is a little bit at a time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I say to the listeners. Because the people who are listening right now may not understand the markets the same way as I do, or as, Julius Baer or DBS or all the major institutions. They just may not understand that. Okay. So I've got to be able to delineate it in such a way that the listener can really understand, hey, this is what's going on. All right. How can I get involved in it without, having too much risk? Because I've worked hard for my capital and my money. I'd like to see it grow.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I mean, since this still is new and nuanced here, once people do adopt more of crypto into their investments, will we see a shift from, short-term trading or speculative holdings into longer-term structured crypto investments?
Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing right now is that the public loves the instant endorphins of now, speed, okay? And short term can become long term when it should be short term, okay? Meaning that the public is just getting accustomed, right, to the flexibility of investing on their own in many ways. What they're also saying is that when they start to just focus on investing, right, they lose sight of what their basic core business is, which is investing in themselves and how they make money for themselves, above and beyond the stock market and the global markets. Okay. And that's what you're really starting to see right now. You're starting to see that if someone has net worth or someone has a very good job, he should be focusing on what's made him wealthy, which is his focus should be work and how he's gotten there. Everything else should be ancillary over the long term. So that's my answer to you. I think that's what the best investment you're always going to make is in yourself. It's difficult to beat the street.
Mm-hmm.
You see that every day. I mean, you just saw right now. I mean, Trump, Musk, the soap opera that goes on in China, the US, Israel, Iran. It's going to always be a new genre all the time. And the public may not be used to the narrative changing all the time, but business professionals within the industry understand that. I'm not saying I understand it perfectly. I've just been in it for a very long time. Unfortunately, I've been able to have an incredible people that I work with. But at the end of the day, always invest in yourself. And that is the best investment you'll make in any business strategy.
Definitely. I mean, well, speaking of investments here, amongst family offices and high net worth individuals, are they more interested in allocating their assets into crypto VC, tokenized funds, or yield bearing products like staking and DeFi when it comes to digital assets?
When it comes to digital assets, once again, you really asked and I'm saying this seriously, you asked a really great question. All right. When it comes to digital assets, it depends on the appetite and risk of the investor, meaning that when the crypto is pegged to, let's say, USDT, we already see right now that, A company like JP Morgan can, really tighten that spread. Okay. So the bigger guys really understand every aspect of it. Therefore, Mr. Jones, who's out there, or Mr. Lee, who's out there listening to the radio shows, needs to understand the framework in which they play in. So as far as the family offices, it depends on A, what type of family office it is. B, it's going to be a combination of many things. All right. So like I said before, Singapore is trying to really create the landmark and groundwork for the future with tokenization. Because all the tokenization does is as follows: give you an audit trail, but more importantly, okay, this is what it really enhances. It gives the client or the potential investor to have another way to invest without putting up as much capital. And that's the major thing that you need to see. All right. And once you're going to see it, you just saw it, was it Friday? Okay, with Robinhood about tokenizing things in a certain way, and they weren't really tokenized yet. And that's what you're going to see. It's how you can create a hybrid, but not create a hybrid. But the market's been doing that for the last 200 years. I mean, that's where derivatives all came from. The idea of just hedging and an insurance policy, it's all been manifested, and it's just a new type of normal and a new type of vocabulary within the market.
Well, with this move by the MAS, could this also accelerate the move toward treating crypto like any other investable asset class alongside equities or even real estate?
Yes. In real estate, let me say this to you. In real estate, what it's going to really be able to do in real estate is really do two things. Number one, give a clean chain of title. All right. And I think that is so critical. All right. And what I mean by critical, it's the audit process in which the blockchain can do that. And not only the audit process, it's the transparency of going through the right custodial to understand that there is a process. Okay, that, we didn't make it up on the fly. But at the same time, we've seen that sometimes what the public may think is normal is not normal, and they get caught up into some hype. And I think but Mas is on top of it. All right, they want to really create something. They want to be at the forefront. They want to be at the mountain first, but it's okay to be second. Okay, one's not a lonely number. That's a quote from the Beatles, and it's true. It's not a lonely number. So you've got to trust and verify anything you do at any time and for any reason.
Definitely. Well, could verified crypto holdings also now be used in broader wealth planning tools such as trusts, family office vehicles, or even as collateral for traditional investments?
Of course. Very well said. And not only will it be able to do that, it's how the collateral is held and what the valuation is. When you see the bigger players already in it, okay? The BlackRocks of the world. You just saw a deal last week, BNY Mellon, trying to do a deal, BNY Mellon and Northern Trust. These are two behemoths. So, the custodial accounts of custodial accounts. And how do you develop and foster that trust? By having a right audit process. All right. And that's what the public and that's what the family offices want to see. Because once it's out, it's out. Okay. Once the capital is out, okay, it's out. And then they want to see yield on it. But they need to see that the yield, all right, can actually be executed. And it's all going to be controlled by interest rates. That's why you're going to see, this week we got Howell again speaking. There's a lot of dynamics going on. Okay, whether it's tariffs, the narrative is changing so quickly. But the beauty of it is that you're seeing that crypto and the alternative investments now have an anchor of some sort.
Right.
Okay, so it's not being blown off, and they're saying, wow, there is really something here. But they've earned that, like anything else, depending on the asset class,
Right. But how will this affect risk management strategies, especially around custody, volatility, and compliance?
Well, as far as risk management, it's always going to be two things. Number one, trust and verify. Number two, okay, liquidity and how they can deploy liquidity. And that's what you need to really understand. You've already seen, okay, on the Singapore, You've got a lot of companies like Temasek on the Singapore Stock Exchange, Halcyon Capital. They're all about trying to understand how to actually verify the assets so they can do it. Okay. You've got Hash. I mean, I can go on and on. Okay. And now you've got Fidelity, okay, offering research in custody to ultra high net worth individuals. Tell me, Fidelity, State Street, and Vanguard, and BlackRock. Take a look at all the companies that they have a serious interest in. Just take a look at it. Everything. And literally almost everything. I can't say everything categorically, but I mean, that's what they really have. And that's important to understand. I mean, you're going to see Anchorage Digital, Zodia Custody, Nexo Institutional. It's really growing really fast. Above and beyond, okay, the AI. All right. Look at Microsoft last week. They laid off like 4 or 5,000 people, like it was a little stroke of a pen. All right. That is telling you something. Everything talks to everything else. That's what the public and especially the listeners need to understand. It's you have to find, if as someone who's an investor, regardless of the institutional aspect, but as an investor, 2 plus 2 is 4. They need to keep it simple, focus on their life and focus on their business, and not saying that the stock market is going to make me a rich man overnight. It just doesn't happen that way. It's just, those are the facts. The public needs to understand that as more information comes in and the speed of the information, it confuses them. And that's why shows like yourself can explain it to it can be as granular as you want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't make it over granular because the public won't understand it. And that's one of the things that you're seeing right now, all right, with the whole genre of the market.
Definitely.
And that's the hardest part for, Mr. Jones, Mr. Lee, Mrs. Lee, who's ever investing out there. They're like, there's just too much. How do I turn it? I don't get it.
Right.
And that's a hard to understand. And even in people who are sophisticated right now are having a tough time adjusting, all right, to the speed, all right, the speed of the technology, the speed of the AI, the speed of the media, the speed.
Definitely.
The market is telling you something.
Well, with this landmark move by the MAS then, Steve, could this move ultimately lead to Singapore being seen not just as a regulatory-friendly crypto hub, but as a premier destination for institutional-grade crypto investment management?
That is the whole purpose and the genre of what they're doing right now. Okay, because, they're going to be the Wall Street, in my humble opinion, the Wall Street of crypto. That's what they're trying to do. But the beauty of it is that they've always worked hand in hand with the largest exchanges and the largest banking systems in the world. All right. So believe me when I say this to you categorically and definitively, they have a very good understanding, okay, of risk, okay, and working with it, all right, for many, many years. I mean, you're not talking to a government that doesn't understand something. You're talking to a regulator and an authority that not only understands it, understands the freedom and also the regulatory environment. But at the end of the day, okay, the institutions are all also learning through the regulator. They've been there for a long time. If you recall, I just said about the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They've been doing business with the Cymex for a zillion years.
Right.
Public doesn't understand that. Right. And that's what we need to deploy to the public. Hey, you can go out there, and if you think you're going to be rich overnight because you read a story that somebody bought crypto at X and they're a zillionaire, don't focus on that.
Yeah, it's all about that fear of missing out and people just jumping the gun here. But some great insights from you, Steve. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I love being out here. Anything I can do to help out the listeners and bring it down to a normal, understandable level. That's the hardest part of delivering any message.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your insight. Those were tough questions, and I tried to answer them the best I could.
Thank you so much, Steve. Well, that was Steve Alain Lawrence, who is the CIO of Balfour Capital Group. This has been the Wealth Tracker with me, Hongbin Jeong.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.